48 videos and not one of them solely dedicated to a Colin Baker adventure. Let's sort that out. Chosen Chimp here. So, I originally had Vengeance of Varos on the brain, with the reality TV displaying anguish on every front and the guards falling in the acid and Syl taking delight in human suffering and rubbing himself. And I figured, you know what, I'll put that one on the back burner for the moment and let loose on something a little more fun. And of course, Mark of the Rani is a good go-to place. Actually, I better refer to this story as the Mark of the Rani, otherwise people might think I'm just talking about the actual mark. This one is a blast. As soon as these resident miners are brainwashed into becoming scallies and then go and tip this guy's cargo over, a petty criminal act of delightful stupidity, you can tell this is going to be a knees-up number 6 TV adventure. It really has nothing to do with anything, it's just a great substantial bit of classic Who. Well, I say it's got nothing to do with anything, it does introduce this character to the Whoniverse, the Rani. She's a big deal and has a ton of expanded fiction in her wake, and much of it is intertwined with the Doctor and the Master and the untempered schisms and all that. After this adventure, Rani returns in TV form only twice, next in Time and the Rani, and then again in the epic Children in Need EastEnders TV crossover event Dimensions in Time. Throughout this serial, the Doctor and the Master have the upper hand because they already both know who the Rani is, but us, the audience, not the foggiest. There's a bit of backstory, and I mean a bit. We needed the expanded media just for the catch-up session. I'd like to cover some of these someday. For now, I'll say this much. This role fits Kate O'Mara like a glove. She is legitimately cool. Anyway, Scallies attacking wagons. This story takes place in the mining village of Killington in the 19th century. Some great locations here. This hard-working community are trying to live out a humble existence, but unfortunately, Doctor Who, aliens. It took just one mysterious hag and a scarecrow. Meanwhile, the 6th Doctor is in his element, being a vernacular snob while Perry treads in poo. They are drawn to this well-down-to-earth community by a time distortion. Ooh, I love those. These potato-kicking, child-shoving chavs aren't the first and won't be the last to turn naughty in Killington. They have the mark. So, on outside appearance, they seem like every typical group of Luddites. A real-life group of individuals in the 19th century who were opposed to any form of industrial technology which threatened to put them out of work. But in Killington, it's a mere front for more sinister schemes. So like I said, this serial is a gas and doesn't waste any time. We all know who that is clambering over the fence there, pulling straw out of his sleeve. But what's the play here? Well, you're going to have a job asking the Doctor because all he cares about is the opportunity to meet George Stephenson, the father of railways, the architect of the Industrial Revolution, and Perry definitely shares his excitement, don't you, Perry? Not just that, but Stevenson's bringing all of his mates along. Thomas Telford, Michael Faraday, Humphrey Davy, Mark Brunel. And I am delighted to confirm, distinguished colleagues, that none of these people appear in the actual story. Never mind, you got plenty of this guy walking around shooting people and dogs with... yeah. He's got these manufactured Luddites tongue-tied, manipulating the common folk as he always does and order him to catch the yellow-trousered yin to his yang. You know, this is actually pretty intimidating. Rowdy hooligans tend not to follow the tropes that classic sci-fi monsters do. They'll just beat you up, ineptly, while sometimes falling into a well. See what you've done, Master? So begins the double trouble. These guys together is great stuff. Two evil Time Lords, Rani or Ronnie if the Master's pronunciation is anything to go by. I want to talk. Look at all this gear she's got stashed away. She's a chemist. Mad science, oh boy. Rani and Master's dysfunctional verbal riffing is one of my favourite things about this serial. Can you stop killing people with that? They're sort of working together, sort of continuously getting on each other's asses. Just the sort of relationship you'd expect from two villainous Time Lords in classic Doctor Who, and it's endlessly entertaining. Though I gotta say that Rani does have the upper hand for the most of it. She really puts the Master's general tittishness into perspective. Scarecrows, come on. Rani's fingering these minging space maggots into people's mouths, and that's what's sending them scallyish. It's part of the process of extracting the chemical from the human brain that allows sleep. It's to do with her plans to control her own aliens on her planet of Miasmaya Goria. Yeah, we're going to have to take her word for it on that, but it is a thing. The Master's plans, however, are a little more homegrown. It's another brazen effort to tinker with history, a kind of hybrid of the meddling monkness he tried to instigate in the King's Demons with the make Earth an industrial powerhouse scheme seen much later in The Last of the Time Lords. The well-famed riots of the Luddites serve as a masquerade distraction for him to maximise the creative potential of these iconic innovators. Don't build those, build this, that sort of thing. But the Doctor isn't far behind, posing as a local miner and covering his face with something that according to Wiki Fandom inadvertently contained dog poo. And good record keeping there, and paying a visit to the bathhouse. When the gas lets loose in the house, the Doctor moves closer to the pump and passes out. I'm sure it's part of the plan. Yeah, if Wiki Fandom's anything to go by, then you probably don't want to put your hands there, mate. That's it. You listen to his chest and hear the da-da-da-da pumping in there. There you go, now you know who it is. It's barely an introduction and they're already insulting each other's faces and clothes. Surprise, surprise, she's been coming to the planet for centuries. Who'd have thought? Time Lords never do that. Might as well bring in this precious collared sausage in and have the whole gang together. The Master has a grudge to settle with the Doctor and with Perry because of the whole fire thing in Planet of Fire. I don't think that fooled anyone though. This guy gets fully nuked at least once every regeneration. Anyway, he says, and I quote, "Feast your eyes, Doctor, on the imminent demise of the TARDIS." I'm not sure what kind of highbrow sci-fi method of annihilation that evokes in your head, but here's the reality. A group of rowdy men trundling it along in a trolley and throwing it down a well, whilst making the Doctor watch the git. This next scene does confuse me a little. It seems to me like the Doctor literally outwits the Master by telling him that this is fake news engineered by the Rani. Everyone's confused by the end of it, so I guess it worked. After that, it's just a mess. Perry tries to push the Doctor to safety, but pushes him the wrong way and off he trundles for blooming ages. But then he is rescued by Mr. George Stevenson himself, the one guy that does show up. Naturally, he buddies up with the Doctor. The Doctor explains the situation and Stevenson finds it hard to credit, and the Doctor is surprised at that, even though it's nothing like what really happened in the 19th century, so you can hardly blame him. Serious though, it's always fun when real history rock up. It's a staple component of Doctor Who, right up till today's product. Joseph Williamson there, I liked him too. It's not your fault, mate, it was the writing. Suffice to say, these two get on really well, and so are the Master and Rani for a bit, laughing at each other's jokes and that, merging their schemes together to weave even greater schemes. On the subject of which, this guy's name is Luke, and he's been hypnotised and Rani'd simultaneously. It's not even as if one cancels out the other, just don't trust him. Hot on the trails and quoting Julius Caesar to heart's content, the Doctor breaches the Rani's secret catacombs, giving some backstory along the way. Okay, drumroll everyone, time for some backstory. Oh boy, this is going to be juicy. Apparently the Doctor knows the Rani the same way he knows the Master. Well, cheers for that. Good insight. Wiki Fandom can tell me that you had dog poo on your face in the 80s, but you can't explain to me that you played hide and seek with her when you were kids. I'll tell you what's not good though, setting off this mustard gas. Nice prop. And gee whiz, would you look at the Rani's TARDIS. It's got one of those spinning ring things on the console to boot. Possibly one of the coolest incarnations of a TARDIS I've ever seen. I'm not kidding. It's brilliant. I love this. Plus, she can control it by remote. Keep up, Doctor. As you can imagine, he's enthralled. Look at this Tyrannosaurus Rex embryo brought back from the Cretaceous period. Yeah, alright, yes, smart move. You douse it in chemicals. And finally, some Rani backstory worthy of note. Back on Gallifrey, she turned mice into monsters which then ate the Time Lord President's cat. And according to Gary Russell's 1985 Legacy of Gallifrey comic, it was that guy's, from the Three Doctors. He's also in Mind of Evil. I'm getting distracted. The Master and Rani spill a segment of their evil schemes with number 6 in earshot, which brings us to the crucial forest section of this story. Whatever this was when it started is hardly it now. Classic last episode in a serial stuff. And this is probably my favourite scene. 3 prickly Time Lords outwording each other. It was all building up to this as far as I'm concerned. And it's all pretty diplomatic until Luke steps on a landmine. He just doesn't deserve the day that he's having. Not only that, but it's a special Rani landmine. It doesn't blow you up, it just turns you into a tree. Well, the Doctor isn't standing for that. He gets Rani to lead Perry through the minefield, and Perry asks where Luke is, and yeah, he's a tree mate. He can move his branch like it's an arm, but that's about it. And they just leave him. They don't even go back for him at the end. The perpetuating nightmare of being something to do with Doctor Who but having no expanded fiction of any kind. Seriously, there's nothing, that's it. But at least he's not the only one. Conveniently enough for the once again captured Doctor, you can even sort of see a face on that one. The Doctor uses a big branch to prod the forest floor for mines, and all I'm thinking to myself is what would the branch turn into if it landed on a mine? Probably him. Mine chase, and trouble in paradise for our two chief villains. It all comes out when things go wrong. Apparently she's a blundering woman now. Their exit from this story, which was about workmen in a 19th century Newcastle mining village to begin with, is this. The Rani and the Master veering off course in the Rani's TARDIS thanks to some calculated meddling of the Doctor's very own. Going all stretchy and bendy as the embryonic dinosaurs accelerate in their development at an alarming rate. They'll be fine. Smile, Doctor and Perry, you've earned it. Yeah, figure that one out, Stevenson. Enjoy your trains. Okay, just back it up 1 second. Why did he disguise himself as a scarecrow? Hope you had fun watching this. What do you think? Should I do Time and the Rani next? Sound off in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a good one.